Hello everybody and welcome back. And it is good to talk to all of you again. And today we are going to be looking at a replay from SavingJ, who's playing a Friedrich der Große. Now, before I get into the actual replay, because there's still a little bit of set of time, hope you all, first of all, having a good weekend. Mine's been kind of shitty. Actually, it's been really shitty. And it might potentially impact my upload schedule for the next little while, so I'm just going to fill you guys in. So yesterday, got a phone call from family in China saying that one of my uncles is having a bit of a medical thing, and they wanted my parents to go back. So started scrambling, trying to get all of their stuff ready for travel, including tickets and passports and things like that. So trying to get everything ready, and of course my parents were scrambling, and then everything was at least okay yesterday in terms of setting everything up until this morning when my mom, on her way to get something for the trip, slipped on a chunk of ice and face planted into the concrete parking lot. So things went from pretty bad to really shitty really quickly. Took her to the hospital. Luckily nothing internal in terms of damage, but she's got a pretty severe concussion. At least that's what the doctor says. So, travel canceled, and now we're going to take care of her for the next little while, and so we'll see how things go. But it's been a pretty shitty 2 days in a row, and come on, 2017, god damn it. Give me a reset switch or something. God, I want to just press that and, kind of reset 2017 and then start all over. But, unfortunately, life doesn't work that way, so hope for the best, right? Anyways, let's take a look at this battle with SavingJ. So, first things first, think about the characteristics of the Friedrich der Große, right? So the Friedrich der Große has pretty darn good armor, turtleback armor too, so that if you do show broadside, while you can take quite a bit of penetration damage, generally speaking, if you're up close, you're not going to be taking those citadels. So first good thing about the ship. Second, you do have pretty damn amazing secondaries. So those secondaries only work out to about 10.6 if you've got the flag and everything equipped. So again, sort of indicating to you where that good starting range is. Furthermore, German battleships generally not the most accurate of battleships, so if you get close, your guns generally will function, shall we say, a little bit better at hitting the enemy, rather than if you're trying to stand off and trying to hit something from range. And finally, the Friedrich der Große also does have a pretty nice hydroacoustic search, which means that if you are afraid of destroyer torpedoes, you can pop that and stay relatively safe. So, take a look at the positioning of SavingJ at the beginning, and you kind of see he's in a very nice spot. Yes, he does shoot at a broadside Iowa because, hey, if an Iowa gives you a broadside, that's inviting a salvo, right? But anyways, look at the targets he's primarily going to be engaging. It's these cruisers over here. And if you can get in here and start engaging these cruisers are going to probably have to run for their lives. While cruisers are fine at dealing with other cruisers and some destroyers, they generally are not that well equipped to deal with battleships, especially up close. And of course you'll see SavingJ is going to come out and start punishing these cruisers. And these cruisers, I don't think they're really aware of just how much danger they're in. First salvo there, not too much with the AP, but secondaries are already opening up. Now Hindenburg, on the other hand, showing a broadside to a battleship, you're just asking for a paddling, a nice hard spanking. Yeah, just waiting for the guns to reload here. Waiting, and guns ready to go. Salvo out. That Hindenburg not in a good place. There we go. Bang. Citadel hit. Huge chunk of HP lost. Painful thing to do. And so, of course, by being here as the battleship, there's so much pressure now on the enemy team's cruisers over here that unless they had battleships pull right away, they either have to pull away or risk getting killed. And of course, these cruisers are going to start backing away, although not really going to be in time, I think. Ooh, broadside Bismarck. Take a shot at that. And mind you, I mean, while the Friedrich der Große shooting things that are angled will struggle just like any other battleship, if you do give it a broadside, it can still do some decent damage. Although, with only 4 guns directly forward, you do have to show a little bit more of that side, so you really do have to learn how to use um, almost it's like side belt armor angling, right? Use that to sort of bait out enemy shots and then return fire with all of your guns. You do kind of have to learn that. Once again, you do ideally want to be sort of around 10-kilometer range, because that's the range where your guns are happy and your secondaries are happy. Now, speaking of guns, you might have noticed that SavingJ is actually using the 406 millimeter guns, and that's a particular gun set that I'm, well, not 100% convinced by. But I can see how it can't be useful. But first of all, why am I not convinced? Well, when I used the 406s, I did find them to lack a bit of punch, right? It's like when you run into enemy battleships, sometimes they just seem to lack a little bit of punch. However, it might possibly be that when I last used the 406s, I was playing the German battleships a little bit more like the way I would play other nations' battleships, a little bit more at range. And now that I've sort of thought about it, it actually kind of makes sense if you play with the 406s if you were actually up close and dealing with enemy ships. Because if you're at close range, or at least reasonably close range, something gives you a citadel, you're going to delete them anyways. And for a reload that's quite a bit faster than the 420 millimeter guns, might actually work when you're sort of up close and personal and brawling. Where I guess I struggled with them is mostly because I would spend quite a bit of the battle on a more standoffish distance, and at the more standoffish distance, I did find the 420s to be nicer. However, if you play the German battleships correctly, which is actually to get into range and brawl, the 406 millimeter guns I think will do completely fine. Speaking of which, you might actually be wondering, like, what's so special about this replay? Like, why is Chase showing it off? Well, you know, a lot of times people sort of think that, oh, if you want to do these huge amounts of damage, you really have to go ahead and, you know, pull off amazing stuff. And it's not always true. A lot of times, to get a reasonably good damage amount, you just really have to be sort of in the right place at the right times. In which case, SavingJ in the right place at the right time. Why? Because he's taking care of most of the things on the other side. He's now come to the middle, and he's basically starting to fight enemy ships by himself. Enemy Friedrich der Große is eating a ton of punishment from the main guns and the secondaries. Look at those. Like fires and everything. And every time two German battleships get together, by the way, the fight is always very entertaining. So it's just shells and shells and shells everywhere. But anyways, what was I going to say? Right. So positioning. You know, as long as you have pretty darn good positioning, as long as you're at a comfortable range to engage enemy ships, and as long as your aim is half decent, you should actually get a reasonable amount of hits, and you should be able to get a reasonable amount of damage. Which is what we see actually in this battle, because by this point in time, only about 8 minutes into the battle, SavingJ's already got 125,000 damage done. One other thing, of course, is you might have noticed is that at the beginning, SavingJ started out with all of his friendly ships. And that's the thing about battleships, right? If you go by yourself, you're very easy target. You're easy targets for destroyers, easy targets for cruisers that are behind islands. You're just an easy target overall. But when you sort of team up with your own team and you help them out, the enemy team starts to really be afraid of you because one, you're a really big threat. Two, you're a really big HP pool. And you really take that pressure, that heat off of your off your own team from the enemy team, while you're able to output quite a bit of damage still. And there we go, Magic Citadel, by the way. Sometimes Citadels can be quite random on German battleships. Sometimes you shoot at them for a very long period of time and get absolutely nothing, and sometimes you just do that and bam, Citadel. So, you know. Alright, moving on, shooting at a Mogami at range. Mogami just, again, offering that sweet broadside. And you know what's happening. It's like, even a Friedrich der Große is going to punish you badly if you show a broadside. So there's one Citadel done. SavingJ is, of course, not done because there's another salvo being loaded right now for that Mogami on the other side. Alright, and so while we wait for him to finish that off, because he's about to get another salvo out right here, I guess I should probably mention what I want to do as well for the next little while. I think the next little while might do a bit more replays and clips and stuff about ships that don't normally get played much. You know, ships that don't normally make it into replays. Maybe I'll just do more of those. And also, there we go, another Citadel hit, 183,000 damage already, and picking up the high caliber. Enemy Iowa, last remaining major enemy battleship here, and, well, that Iowa is actually reasonably well angled, actually completely bow in there. And just getting pounded right now by SavingJ secondaries, by his primaries, getting fire set. Iowa's just not having that great of a day. Although, speaking of which, one of the things you probably noticed is there's quite a bit of shells, secondary shells hitting, and the damage number actually hasn't improved because a lot of the shells are being either blocked or they're just being bounced. And this kind of makes me wonder whether or not that supposed change to the HEAP skill with 0.6.0 will make a difference, because that particular skill actually buffs secondaries as well. So it could be interesting, you might see less fires, but you might see more consistent damage, where if you were playing a secondary build, that might actually be quite important to you. Although unfortunately, until we see the effects, we're not really going to know how they work. So this poor Iowa, just in trouble, getting pounded from multiple sides. And at this particular time, if I was the Iowa, I think I might have just gone ahead and rammed. I mean, there's a huge amount of damage still to be gotten from SavingJ. Instead of just sitting here, reversing backwards and getting burned to death, might as well just YOLO forward and try to kill SavingJ. Hey, I mean, if you successfully pull off a ram, there's at least plus 50 or 60,000 damage, depending how much HP at the time. So, I don't know, if I was the Iowa, I think I would have gone for the rush instead of just simply sitting there and getting picked apart to pieces. And, of course, there is the Wither medal. And that pretty much wraps up this battle. Yep. It only took, I think, about 11 minutes, and the actual combat probably only lasted about, maybe 8, maybe 9 minutes. And the results are as follows: 211,628 damage, 4 Citadel hits there, 236 secondary hits, 8 base defense, 9 fires, high caliber Witherer. It's just a pretty fantastic battle for, one that's being pretty darn short. And it really does show, as long as you're in the right place with the battleship, doing the right thing, supporting your team, helping out, you get really, really good results, as long as your aim isn't too far off. Base experience is also really good at 2,405. Which is a pretty good base experience number when you're talking about Battleship. In terms of detailed results screen here, a good amount of main battery damage, 131,000 with HE and AP, 19,715 with secondaries, and 60,000 with fires. Again, going to be an interesting number study sort of when 0.6.0 comes out, if they do that HEAP, to see if that number maybe reverses a little bit or just secondary becomes a lot more consistent. And finally, credits. 309,710 with premium. Had you been on free, 153,873 after all the servicing. So pretty good, solid amount of credits earned. Anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed this battle. I am pretty much about to pass out. I'm just totally exhausted right now. But anyways, folks, hope you enjoyed this one. Looking forward to talking to all of you again really, really soon. And of course, make sure you have yourselves a really nice week. Take care, folks.